everybody to the penultimate stop in our Harry Potter series on the road to Fantastic Beasts, The Crimes of Grindelwald. I have had so many guests so far, but now I have a very special guest, who requested themselves to be on this review. I'm talking to someone from Australia. I'm talking to Miss Casey Causley. Welcome to the show, Casey.
Hello, and yes, I did. I was just like, you need to have me on this series because I know so many people who have talked about Harry Potter movies and I just need to be one of them. So yeah, thank you for having me on this video. I'm super excited.
I am more than happy to have you in this review or in any other in the future. So excited to talk about Harry Potter. Are you one of the people who read the books and then went into the films or just saw the films?
I read the books. I started reading the books when I was 9. I think I read the first 3 in as soon as they came, or when they were out when I was 9. And then I waited, I think I had to wait 2 years for the 5th one. But I definitely, I've read all of the books before multiple times and seen all the movies multiple times. One could say I'm a pretty dedicated fan, so.
I never read the books myself, but I do watch these films once a year, the whole collection. I haven't seen Fantastic Beasts in a while, actually, but I gotta watch it right before the next one. I think this one to me is probably the only part 1 of dividing a book into 2 films that actually works for me. So since you read the book, how do you feel about this?
Yeah, I think so. Because there's a lot of franchises that have done it at this point. I think Twilight did it and The Hunger Games did it. In both of those cases, I don't think it was necessary. But in terms of Harry Potter and the way that J.K. Rowling writes everything, there's just so much that she put into all of those books, let alone just Deathly Hallows. So I think they really did need to have 2 films to wrap it up. I think there are bits of it that drag, but I think that there were bits of the book that drag in general anyway. So, I think it was the right choice to split this into 2 movies.
Yeah, I agree, because most of those films, even Hunger Games, which I enjoyed both parts, mixed at least, I think this is the one movie that artistically it packs so much story and lore, and it has a lot of character development in this film alone, that it does make sense. From the very beginning, there's Hermione taking the memory out of her parents, and then there's this scene with Voldemort killing a friend of Snape's right in front of him. This, to open a film and carry so much emotion right away, just has this feeling of, we're not starting with Harry Potter, we're starting with Voldemort, so he's already in control. It almost feels like he's already won at this point. Yeah,
it's kind of like he's making the first statement in this one. It's like, oh, I've done this, now what are you going to do, Harry? Sort of thing. And I think, I agree with that because this film has a lot of emotional bits to it. And I guess the rest of the series does as well, but it's kind of there's a, as Ron kind of says in this, he's like, it's not just about you anymore, Harry, it's about all of us. And so it's this film has to, it packs such a punch. Just rewatching all of the bits is just, the amount of emotion in this film. And I agree completely.
Yeah, it's filled with a lot of scenes that carry the emotional weight of it all. But I'm going to one of my issues right away just because we're at this point. One of my issues happens really early, and that's the scene where everyone takes the polyjuice potion and transforms into Harry. They run away, and the Death Eaters don't know who the real Harry is. But Hedwig just dies, almost off screen. At the first time I watched this film, I didn't even realize that she died. In fact, I didn't even know that Hedwig was a girl. I thought it was a boy all along. So you learn something new every day. But I was disappointed that she doesn't get a spotlight, I guess, to die.
No, I get what you mean. So today when I was actually, because I just rewatched it again today, or most of it. And so when I was looking at that, so that is one of the things that differs between the book and the movie. So in the book, it's Harry casting Expelliarmus that alerts the Death Eaters to him. So basically, they're all flying and they're all doing things, and all of the other Harrys are doing what they need to do to keep themselves safe. But when Harry has a choice, he can either stupefy someone, and which will knock them off their broomstick and they'll die anyway, or he can Expelliarmus them. So he Expelliarmuses them, and that's his signature move and his signature difference to Voldemort. Basically, is that he will always take the nice route. He won't take the bad one. And so that's what happens in the book, but in the Hedwig still dies in the book, but in the movie it's like it's almost as though they were determined. So when you said that basically it felt like it was nothing that you didn't even realize, this is actually their version of trying to give Hedwig a meaningful death, because she actually saves Harry in this. So, but that's an issue for me, because I feel like it's such an important part of the book to differentiate Harry from Voldemort in his like using the like Expelliarmus, because it's the nice way out. But that's as soon as you were like, oh, the 7 Potters, I was like, yes, okay, let's get into it.
Yeah, I don't think visually it translated well beyond the notion of, okay, they're in a race against time, which is basically the bulk of this film is them running away literally from Voldemort and against time to find these Horcruxes to destroy him bit by bit. I think one of the things that does work is that this film does feel more drastic, because at one point Harry, Ron, and Hermione separate from everyone else, and I think, to me at least, it's the first film where it truly feels like they're lonely. Because yes, things have been dark before, but maybe Snape, before turning truly evil, per se, he was around. Dumbledore was around. Minerva was around. Maybe they were at Hogwarts. They had always someone who could help them out. Maybe could explain stuff to them and they could learn things easily and fix some problems. But here, they truly are very isolated, which leads into some great scenes in this film for me.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. There's definitely the moment when Harry's like, I'm not going back to Hogwarts. It's very like... just the fact that the 3 of them are on their own. There's another, the scene when they very first leave the wedding, Bill and Fleur's wedding, and Ron has the choice because he's got Dolohov on the ground, and Hermione's like, and he's like, what would you do if you were us? You would kill us. And Hermione's like, Ron, and he's like, this is I can't remember the exact quote, but he's like, this is where we're at. This is what we have to do. We have to look after ourselves. And it was very much just like that mature moment. And you kind of see that, they're scared and yet they're still willing to do what it is that they have to do, because that's the entirety of these 2 books. Like, they have no idea what they're doing. And for example, there's like another bit where Ron's like, I thought you had more information from Dumbledore, and Harry's like, I told you all the information that I have. So there's this sense of panic to it. And yeah, I agree with that. They feel very isolated, but that's what makes it so good, but also like so scary, because they are. And then there's like the other bit where Ron, I think we're probably moving into it a bit too fast, but before Ron leaves, I think we'll probably talk about other stuff before that.
Not much more to talk about. I do agree with you that it's the lack of information that makes it very scary, but I think it also allows for like the exposition scenes in other movies where they would feel more egregious and very in your face, and here they kind of make sense. There's no other way for Harry to find this information. He has to chase after the information and really interrogate people about it. The film also allows us to see the effects of the Horcruxes on them, which reminds me of the effects of the ring in Lord of the Rings. Then, eventually, yes, Ron leaves. I've heard it isn't in the book, but the moment where Harry and Hermione dance in the tent, I love that scene. I want you to talk about that scene because you read the book first before I say why I like it so much.
Yeah, no, that scene is very intense, if you'll pardon my pun. But anyway, that scene's not in the books, and because J.K. Rowling has sort of said a couple of times, she's like, there are a couple of moments that could have changed the course of the story from being Ron and Hermione to being Hermione and Harry. Most of those scenes happen in Deathly Hallows. So the scene, to me, it felt, because going back to like talking about the emotion of this film, I feel like so much of that emotion is just... it comes from Hermione, because she's so connected to both of them, but at the same time, she knows that she can't do all the things for both of them at once, but she feels this like higher urge to help Harry. So just to have her experiencing all of these feelings was just very overwhelming. And so leading up to that scene with like her and Harry dancing, it just showed that the 2 of them are very close. he helped her out in a moment when she really needed it, and maybe it wasn't all that she needed, but, you know, he cheered her up. But yeah, that scene, I remember watching it in the cinema for the first time and being like, oh, this is really cheesy. It's not really Harry Potter. It just feels a bit weird. But watching it again, like, I can understand the purpose behind it.
Yeah, I get that perspective. Why it hit me so well at the first time and never since then was because I think it's such an emotional toll on them when Ron leaves. And at this point, it's obvious, even to Hermione and the audience, that she and Ron are in love, have been for a long time. And I think the fact that he leaves puts her in such a desperate spot that she almost feels like being with Harry would be safer, more comfortable, like a more sure thing, I guess, than be with Ron. So it's Ron's leaving that brings her to that place of doubting what she actually knows she feels for him and not for Harry.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess it's not that's not something that I've ever thought about before. I guess because Ronmione or Hermione is always been so ingrained in me that I've always just kind of been like, no, it's them. It will always be them. But no, yeah, there's definitely, yeah, I think at that stage, Hermione is just, she feels so alone. She doesn't have her parents anymore. She doesn't have her school, which is such a big part of her identity. She doesn't have any of her other friends around her, like Ginny, Luna, or any of those people. It's just Harry. And I think the two of them in that moment realize that at that moment all they have is each other. And so I guess that's, you know, that brings them together, so to speak.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And speaking of that desperation, the scene that follows with Harry in his hometown, basically, and he goes to his parents' grave, I think it's such a heavy... I've heard rumblings that it also differs a bit from the book. I'm not sure how much and in which sense, but it's a scene that I really love because basically brings Harry to this place where he literally has no home anymore. He doesn't have the Dursleys, he doesn't have Hogwarts, almost like he's accepting his ultimate fate, or at least the ultimate fate that Voldemort intends for him. I think it's such a scene that doesn't need anything said, and just the visuals, the cinematography works for it beautifully.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think Harry going to Godric's Hollow is, I mean, there's such a big, so I honestly can't remember how that plays out in the book. I'm pretty sure it's pretty similar, but yeah, it's been such a long time since I read it. But yeah, Harry going back there is just this, yeah, it's exactly that. It's basically him saying, I've got nothing left except Hermione. I've got nowhere to be, no one to like hold on to. I just need to get some answers, and I feel like that's back in my hometown. And Harry tends to make the wrong decisions quite a lot of the time, and so I think if Hermione had put her foot down a bit more and been like, maybe we shouldn't go to Godric's Hollow because it's not the most logical answer, but ultimately it leads them to more answers in terms of Rita Skeeter's book and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, I definitely feel like it's Harry trying to find some kind of solace. And the scene when they're both like looking at his parents' grave, that gets me every time because that's such an emotional scene, I think. And it's been building for such a long time.
Yeah, Harry Potter always gets those scenes that make us tear up. In every movie, there's at least one. I know I get choked up in at least one of the scenes in one of the films. How about the scene that follows? Because to me, it's when I have another one of my issues. That's when the Harry, or rather Ron, has the visions from the pendant and the Horcruxes. It's the scene where he comes back, basically. Because it feels like there was no build to it. It feels almost like they forgot that Ron had to come back before the end of the film. And granted, this might be the best scene in which he could come back, but it still felt very rushed. Again, there was no build to his comeback.
I mean, at that moment, I quite like that moment because like just before that happens, Harry, like his wand is absolutely gone. And that's such a crazy thing as well, to think that he went to Godric's Hollow to try and find something and he lost something else. So I really think that Harry's at his weakest point at that moment. He's got no one. He doesn't even have his wand, which is, even though it's, a tie to a negative thing, because it's a tie to Voldemort, he doesn't even have that connection to Voldemort as much anymore. So he's feeling so low. So I think like in the books, that was the best time. Like it's the best time to bring Ron back. It's when Harry's finally just kind of lost absolutely everything. And so in the movies, I guess I see it that way. I wasn't really, I don't know about the build probably, but yeah, like that's the best time to bring Ron back. And so it's just, that scene is, it breaks my heart because of the line. It's like, Dumbledore gave me this because he knew I would leave. And Harry's like, no, it's because he knew you'd always want to come back. And I think that's just such that scene always makes me cry. That's one that always makes me cry. Even though it's just like such a big like action scene with like getting rid of the Horcrux and all that sort of stuff. It's like going from such a loss, from losing his wand and everything like that, to like such a win. And I think it kind of like opens up for the end. They're like, okay, we've had a win now. We're ready to kind of, do something else.
And it's one of those scenes that does explain so much that have been planted, the little seeds that have been planted in the films thus far. And the scene that follows that does the same with the father of Luna, who I'm forgetting the name of, and he explains Xenophilius, that's it, thank you. And he explains what the Deathly Hallows are. I love this scene so much. Again, it's a very exposition-heavy scene, but I love the story of the Deathly Hallows. I think it's beautiful but haunting at the same time. I would love to see a film about the Deathly Hallows, the three brothers.
Yeah, I wasn't entirely on board with the sort of animation of it when I first saw it. I kind of was like, kind of takes you out of it. But rewatching it, it fits, and it fits really well. The Deathly Hallows, just the tales of Beedle the Bard stuff, and like having it all just like come together and figure out what the actual Deathly Hallows are. Because so back in the day when we were waiting for the Deathly Hallows book to come out, there was all of this, there was always speculation, because I think we'd just seen the cover and the title reveal, so everyone was like, oh, what's happening in this book and stuff. So just to finally have that final moment where a lot of things all click together, it's just such a great scene. And also to have like Ron, Hermione, and Harry, each of them who reflects a different Hallow, if you will. Because Hermione is the cloak, Harry's the Resurrection Stone, and Ron is the Elder Wand. So it's like just to have all of that sort of fit together was just, that was a great scene. A very stressful scene as well, but in the end, but a great scene.
Yeah, stressful for sure, because it leads into this. I love this chase scene, because very much like there's an early wand battle, quick battle at a coffee shop, and David Yates, like, he changed how he shot the action from other films to now. It almost feels like magic has no enchantment anymore, and he just showcases the danger and the consequences of it. This chase scene and the battle early on, they're very vicious, very aggressive, very messy. There's like no polish, purposefully so, to it. But I think it makes it that more effective. Like when, I think it was Hermione throws a spell on Harry to disguise his face. The first time I watched this film, I was like, what the hell did she do? Did she just betray Harry? Because I hadn't read the book, so I had no idea. And all the close-ups in his face, and then he doesn't look like Harry. I honestly, the first time I watched this film, I didn't really understand what she had just done, why she had just done it. What a mess.
Like when you said about the magic and about how there's no words or like presentation to it, I think that just adds to the urgency, because like back in the day, they had, in the earlier movies, they had the time to say the incantation, they had the time to make the thought, whereas in this film, just in every single one of the fight scenes or chase scenes or anything like that, it's just throwing spells, just no words, just like gut reactions, gut feelings. And I think that just makes it so much more panicked and so much darker. But there's definitely a lot going on there. I think this movie moves so quickly, because even though there are two films and they're explaining the same book, there's just so much in that book, which, like, someone said to me today, they were like, the movies don't make any sense if you haven't read the books. And I was like, oh, I don't think that's quite the case, but you definitely don't get all of it. And for example, yeah, like Hermione casting the spell on Harry, that would be very confusing.
I felt like the panic that she spoke about. And even in the scene after, when they're imprisoned, and that I truly believed someone was going to die in that scene, which technically it does, but I thought it was going to be like Harry or Hermione or Xenophilius or Ron. And then Bellatrix Lestrange starts torturing them and whatnot, and Dobby shows up. We hadn't seen Dobby in such a long time, and our hearts are filled with hope again, and then immediately they kill our hopes and dreams because they kill Dobby.
Dobby is the embodiment of hopes and dreams, and then he's gone. Oh, man. Yeah. No, that scene, I think even just like beginning back with, when Hermione's getting tortured and I like, in my mind, that scene molds a lot with the book scene of it, but you can just feel Ron's urgency and he wants to be stopping this so bad. And it's just like, I think he feels that sense of guilt. He's like, I left her behind once before. I'm not going to do that again. I need to get to her. I need to save her. And just that whole thing, once again, is another thing that just makes me cry. But just Dobby. Just to have Dobby back in this film, because we haven't seen him, I think, in the film canon anyway. I don't think we've actually seen him since Chamber of Secrets. He's in a couple of the books. In my mind, I'm pretty sure that we only the last we saw of him was in Chamber of Secrets. But anyway, to have Dobby come back and then just be gone again, that's the worst. I think of all the deaths in Harry Potter, I think Dobby's is the one that hit me the most. It's probably my second or third, but it's not any lower than that. But the death that affected me the most is the death of my favorite character, which happens in the next film, when Snape dies. Oh, okay, yep. I was like, who? Because to me, Snape is like, Snape is necessary. He's not my favorite. I've had this conversation a couple times today, actually. So I just talk about Harry Potter all the time. I think, for me, it's Dobby. And then I think number 2 is not actually a death scene, but it's Arthur Weasley being attacked by the snake in Order of the Phoenix. That makes me, because first of all, Arthur Weasley reminds me of my stepdad. So anyway, but the other thing is that that was originally written that he was going to die, and that he wasn't going to make it. So I guess I kind of think about that, and I'm like, no, thank God.
Okay, I can definitely get that. I think if he had died, that would be another one of the scenes that, wow.
It's just such a strong one, because he's like a character that you don't think of as being in danger, and then all of a sudden he is in danger because I think it was because Harry told him something, and so he was in an area and Harry was like, oh, and the other thing is that Harry, I don't know whether it comes across very well in the films, but Harry is dreaming it, and he's dreaming that he is the snake attacking him. So I think that one's just, it gets me every time.
Yeah, lots of scenes in this film just tear my heart out. And if Dobby's death wasn't enough, then we get Voldemort, he gets the Elder Wand, and of course this movie basically begins and ends with Voldemort in power. His status is very freaking high for a villain. I think I mentioned all my issues. I think Hedwig's death doesn't work. I think Ron's return is a little too abrupt. And I did think the ministry scene near the beginning where they disguise themselves as ministry workers, it took a little bit too long for me. Do you have any other issues?
I guess for me, each of those things, maybe, I quite like Ron coming back, but I think each of those things I agree with. On top of that, I guess what I really hate about the films in general, but from this one as well, is the fact that Ginny is incredibly and like criminally underrepresented. Like, she's just in this movie literally to get Harry to zip her dress up. And I'm like, Ginny is such a strong character, and she's supposed to be in the books. She's portrayed as she's still not perfect, but she's portrayed as being Harry's equal, as being like such an important part of the story, and she doesn't get that in the films. So I think that really frustrates me. The other thing is just, in general, Harry Potter Order of the Phoenix, Harry the character, Order of the Phoenix onwards, is just, he's just crazy. Like, I just wish, like, there's this one line when they're in Godric's Hollow, and he's like to Hermione, he's like, she knew Dumbledore. She might have the sword of Gryffindor. And I was like, what? That's just such a mental leap. Like, why would Bathilda Bagshot have the sword of Gryffindor? I think he just kind of jumps from thing to thing, and it's like, okay, Harry, okay, calm down. But yeah, so no, in general, actually rewatching this, because I haven't watched any of the movies before today in like 7 years. So because we had a Harry Potter marathon one weekend, and we just watched all 8 in one, and I haven't been able to focus on one for 7 years. So rewatching it today, I remembered how much that I really love the series. So that was good.
All right, so going right into grades now. I know Casey doesn't give A's to F, so she'll explain her rating system after I give my grade. I think this is a film filled with great action, but also great suspense, and it balances those two elements so well. It has a lot of character development. I think it has a lot of great pacing. The acting is amazing. And I think David Yates, yet again, continues to give something different to these films, now having directed 3 films, with this one. I'm going to give Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1 a B+.
That's pretty strong. I agree with that. I think that David Yates just has this ability to show the Harry Potter world outside of Hogwarts really well. So I think that in terms of all of the different directors that have worked on the film, they've each brought their own things to it, but David Yates really brings this worldwide feel to Harry Potter, and it really makes it feel as though there are actual consequences to the things that these kids are doing and the things that Voldemort are doing. So I think from that perspective, he was the right choice for this film. The performances were great. The one thing that I've always been a bit on the fence about with the Harry Potter series is the 3 leads. I don't think that they're perfect. I think they do an okay job. Over on my channel, we basically just have if a movie is good content or if it is not good content. And then there's also bad content. So there's like a 1 in 3 choice. But definitely I think Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1 is good content. I think it's my 3rd favorite of the Harry Potter films.
Wow, that's pretty high as well. 4th, I think 3rd. I think mine would be 4th. I have to think about it. I basically interchanged this one and Half-Blood Prince all the freaking time. Casey, thank you so much for being here. Where can people find you so they can stalk you on social media and not on the street?
No worries. Thanks again for having me. I am always more than happy to talk about Harry Potter, as evidenced by me talking forever about this movie. You can find me on YouTube at Casey Causley. It's CASEY, and the same on Twitter and Instagram. Just all Casey Causley anywhere, really.
Once again, thank you so much, guys. All Casey's links will be in the description, as I've been doing for all my guests. And go subscribe to her. She's from Australia, the greatest country in the world, my dream country to live in. Please do go there. They have the greatest accents in the history of humanity. I cannot praise Australia enough. Seriously, Australia is my dream country to visit. I don't know if you knew that, so I just had to share it. Once again, thank you so much, Casey. And thank you guys for watching. Tomorrow or after this, Ryan O'Toole will review with me Harry Potter and Deathly Hallows Part 2, and then on Wednesday, Crimes of Grindelwald. So you stay beautiful, you stay geeky, and if you're at the so yet, click the subscribe button and the bell so we can be geeky united.